Hmm. Oh, hi there. Hi there, everyone. Oh, hi, Dave. It's so good to see you, buddy. I came back from Christmas dinner with my grandparents. Oh, that's great to hear, buddy. So, how y'all doing? Huh? For me? Well, it's been a very long Christmas for me. Wait, my lip sync going right? Wait, I think that's better. Yeah. So, it's been a very long Christmas for me. Like a very long one. Since here in Sweden we celebrate Christmas on not the 24th. I mean, we celebrate on the 24th instead of the 25th. So I went to my parents first, and then celebrate over there. Then I stay over a bit for the 25th, and then right after that I went home and mm, wait there. Going cave. Feel like stuffed turkey. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So, wait, why are you here? There we go. No more echo. No echo. Well, so what have I planned for today? Well, uh, we have Christmas Eve, Christmas Day 1, Christmas Day 2. Oh, alright. Right. Good to hear that. So, alright. What was I gonna say again? Right. So, what I plan for today is to read A Christmas Carol. Seriously, I like lip sync not that good. Okay. Yes, and I think it's looking better now. Alright. Does it look good? Does it look good, chat? Alright. Getting comfy there, Dave? Alright. Very good here. Very good. See? So. Oh. Let's bring up A Christmas Carol over here. See? Ah, there it is. Right. Oh, right. Should do it. Now, just sit back, relax, have a good Christmas snack, enjoy merry times. Let me tell you, the tale of when a grumpy old man got scared by supernatural entities to enjoy the tale of Christmas. To enjoy Christmas. So, let's all begin. A Christmas Carol, written by Charles Dickens. Here it is. A Christmas Carol. Day 1. Marley's Ghost. Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by his clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it. And Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Mind! I didn't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge. When there is particularly dead about a doornail, I might have inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade, but the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hands shall not disturb it, or the contrary stand for. You will therefore permit me to repeat emphatically that Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole assign, his sole residuary, his sole legate, his sole friend, and sole mourner. And even Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up by the sad event. but that he was an excellent man of business on the very day of the funeral, and solemnized it with an undoubted bargain. Wait, oh, shoot! Shoot! Sorry. There. The mention of Marley's funeral brings me back to the point I started from. There's no doubt that Marley was dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the story I'm going to relate. If we are not perfectly convinced that Hamlet's father died before the play began, it would be nothing more remarkable than his taking a stroll at night in an easterly wind up on a ramble than there would be in any other middle-aged gentleman rashly turning out after dark in a busy spot. Say, St. Paul's churchyard, for instance, literally to astonish his son's weak mind. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There he stood, years afterwards, above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business knew old Scrooge, and sometimes Marley, but the answer to both was all the same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scrapping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel has ever struck out generous fire, secret and self-contained, and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head, and on his eyebrows, and his very wiry chin. He carried his own low temperature always about with. He iced his office in the dog day. It had fallen 1 degree externally, and cold had little influence on Scrooge. No warmth could warm, no wintry weather chill him. No wind that blew was bitterer than he, no falling snow was more intense upon his side. No pelting rain, less open to inquiry. Foul weather can nowhere have him. The heaviest rain and snow and hail and sleet would boast of the advantage over him. In only one respect, he often came down handsomely, and Scrooge never did. Nobody ever stopped in the street to say, with glancing looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? Have you come to see me?" No beggars implored him to bestow one trifle. Children asked him what it was o'clock. No man or woman, ever once in his life inquired the way such a place of Scrooge. Even the blind men's dogs appeared to know him. When they saw him coming on, tucked their owners in the doorways and up ports, and then would wag their tails as they thought he said, "No eye at all is better than an evil eye, Dark Master." But what did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, to edge his way along crowded paths of life, warning all human empathy to keep its distance, and knowing one to call not Scrooge. Once upon a time, of all good days of the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, foggy withal, and he could hear the people in the porch go outside wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts, and stamping their feet upon the pavement stone toward them. The city clocks thought just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. It had not been lighted all day, and candles were flaring in the windows of neighboring offices, ruddy smears upon palpable brown air. Fog came pouring in at every blinking, so dense without that, although the court was of the narrowest, the houses opposite were mere phantoms. To see the daily crowd came drooping down, obscuring everything. One might have nature lived hard by, proving on this large scale. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who, this must be called well, beyond a sort of think, was copying letters. Wait a second. Oh my god! I'm so sorry! I'm so sorry, guys. Right, I should repeat what I said. My apologies. Right. Oh, hi Belgian, how you doing? You having a great Christmas, everyone? Wait a minute. I thought you talked on phone. I wasn't. I just had myself on mute. Wouldn't be a week to resume without some stuff. I'm so sorry. is new to some of this technology. I'm using this to XLR device right here. Doing fine, how are you? I'm doing just great, Hyper. Good to hear. Here. So, as you can see, I'm reading the book of what's known as A Christmas Carol. So, I should just go back to it right now. I hope you all can enjoy this tale. First, I should probably go back to where I left off before I was accidentally muted. Right. Story time? Yeah, it is story time, Kuru. Alright. I'm just gonna go back exactly where I left off before I was muted. Let's see. Here it is. Scrooge had a very small fire. The clerk's flame was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal, but he couldn't replenish it. Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room, and so surely as the clerk came in with the shovel, Master predicted that it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at a candle, in which effort, not being a man of imagination, he failed. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon us so quickly that this was the first intimidation he had of his approach. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" He had so heated himself, rapid walking, thought, and brought his nephew Scrooge's. He was all in a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome. His eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked again. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle!" said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I am sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "Merry Christmas! What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." Come then," returned the nephew gaily. "What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said, "Bah!" again, followed up with, "Humbug! Don't be cross, Uncle," said the nephew. "What else can I be?" returned the uncle, "when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas! Heart upon Merry Christmas! What's Merry Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer? A time for balancing your books and having every item in them through a round of dozen of months presented dead against you? I could work against my will," says Scrooge indignantly. "Every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas with it on his lips should be boiled with own pudding and buried at a stake of holly through his heart. He should." "Uncle!" pleaded the nephew. "Oh, nephew!" returned the uncle sternly. Keep Christmas in your own way, and let me keep it in mine." "Keep it?" repeated Scrooge's nephew. "But you don't keep it." Let me leave it alone then," says. "Much good may it do you. Much has it ever done you. There are many things from which I may have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say," returned the nephew. "Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time, when it has come around, apart from veneration to its sacred name and origin. If anything belonging to it can be apart from that, it's a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of in the long calendar of the year, when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut up hearts free. Think of people below them as if they were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket. I believe it has done me good, and it will do me good. And I say, God bless it. The clerk in the tank involuntarily applauded, becoming immediately sensible of the improperly he poked the fire and extinguished the last frail spark forever. Let me hear another song for you, said Scrooge, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation. Quite a powerful speaker, sir, he added, turning to his nephew. I wonder why you don't go to Parliament. Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. Scrooge said that he would see him. Yes, indeed he did. Went the whole length of the expression. He said that he would see him in the extremity first. But why? Cried Scrooge's nephew. Why? Why did you get married? Because I fell in love. Because you fell in love, growled Scrooge, as if that only were more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas. Good afternoon. I want nothing from you. I ask. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends? Good afternoon, said Scrooge. I am sorry. All my heart, not you so resolute. We have never had a quarrel, which I have been a party. But I have made the trial in homage to Christmas. Keep my Christmas humor to last. So a Merry Christmas, Uncle. Good afternoon, said Scrooge, and a Happy New Year. The picture of Scrooge and his clerk, which we will learn about. Good afternoon, said Scrooge. His nephew left the room without an angry voice. Notwithstanding, he stopped at the outer door to bestow the disease on the clerk, who, cold as he was warm as his speech. For he returned cordially. Here's another fellow, Scrooge, who overheard him, my clerk. 15 shillings a week, a wife and family, talking about a Merry Christmas. I'll return to the bed. This lunatic, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, has let two other people in. A reported gentleman, listen, behold, and now, good, for himself, Scrooge off. He had books and papers in their hands, and bowed to him. Scrooge and Marley's, I believe, said one of the gentlemen, referring to this. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley? Mr. Marley has been 7 died 7 years ago, this very night. No doubt his liberality was well represented by his surviving partner, said the gentleman, presenting his credentials. He certainly was, but they had been two kindred souls. Almost the word liberality. Scrooge frowned, shook his head, and the credentials back. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, said the gentleman, then, it's more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provisions for the poor and the destitute, who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessities, necessaries. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir. Are there no prisons? Asked Scrooge. The prisons, said, laying down the pen again. And the union workhouses, demanded Scrooge, are they still in operation? They are, still, returned the man. I wish I could say they were not. Treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor then, said Scrooge. Both very busy, sir. Go. Oh, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course, said Scrooge. I'm very glad to hear it. On the impression, on the impression that you scarcely furnish Christian share of mind or body to the multitude, returned the gentleman. A few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat to drink and meat to warm. Chose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt. Abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for? Nothing, Scrooge replied. You wish to be anonymous? I wish to be alone. I wish to be left alone, said Scrooge. You ask me what I wish, gentlemen. That is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas. I can't afford to make idle or merry. I help to support the establishment I have mentioned. They cost enough. Those who are badly off must go there. Many can't go there. And many would rather die. If they would rather die, they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population. Besides, excuse me, I don't know that. Thought you might know that, observed the gentleman. It's not my business, returned. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Seeing clearance that would be used to pursue their point, the gentleman withdrew. Scrooge resumed his labors and drew the opinion. More fastidious tempered than was usual with them. While the fog and dark thickened, the people ran about glaring necks, preferring their services to go before horses and carriages, conduct them on their way. The ancient tower of the church, rough old bells, always peeped slyly down outside the government. Out of a government wall became invisible. The hours and quarters in cloud. Tremulous vibrations out, as if its teeth were shattering. Frozen head. Old tent. Main street. Corner of the court. Some laborers were repairing the gas pipes. The great fire at a place there, around which a bunch of rugged men, boys, were gathered, warmed their hands and winkling their eyes before the blaze and rupture. Water plug being left in salt, its overflowings sullenly congealed, turned to misanthropic ice. Brightness of the shops were holly sprigs and berries crackled and lamp. The windows. Pale faces ruddy as they passed. Poulterers and grocers' trades became a splendid joke, a glorious pageant, which it was next to impossible that such dull principles as bargain and sale anything to do. There we go. The Lord Mayor, in the stronghold of the mighty mansion house, gave orders to his 50 cooks and butlers to keep Christmas as a Lord Mayor's household should. Even the little tailor, who he had fined 5 shillings the previous month for being drunk and bluff-cursing in the street, stirred up tomorrow's pudding in his garret, while his lean life and the baby sallied out to buy the beef. Foggier yet and colder, piercing and searching, biting cold. If the good Saint Dunstan had but nipped the evil fear, touch of such weather as that, instead of weapons, he would have roared in lusty purpose. Owner once again young, gnawed and mumbled by the hunger as bones are gnawed by dogs. Stooped down at Scrooge's keyhole to regale him with a Christmas carol, but at the first sound of "God bless you, merry gentlemen, may nothing you dismay," Scrooge seized the roll with such energy of action that the singer fled in terror, leaving the keyhole to the fog and even more congeal rot. at length the first of shutting up the counting house arrived. With an ill will dismounted from the stool, tactfully admitted the fact the expectant clerk in the tank, who instantly snuffed his candle out and put on his hat. You want all day tomorrow, I suppose, Scrooge? If quite convenient, sir. It's not convenient, said Scrooge. It is not fair. If I was to stop half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. The clerk smiled faintly. And yet, don't think me ill-used. I pay a day's wage for no work. The clerk observed it was only once a year. A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. This buttoning his greatcoat to the chin. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier next morning. The clerk promised that he would. Scrooge walked out with a growl. The office was closed in a twinkling. The clerk, the long end of a white comforter dangling below his waist, where he boasted no greatcoat, went down a slide on Cornhill at the end of a lane of board 20 times in honor of it being Christmas Eve, then ran home to Camden Town as horse compelled to play at blind man's buff. Is my mic coming out a while, or is your mic, Asher? It's probably my mic, sorry. Is this better? Is this? It's good to let me know, Dave. Thank you. Alright, good to know. So, Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern. No worries? Thank you. Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers and beguiled the rest of the evening in his banker's book, went home to bed. He lived in chambers which he had once belonged to his deceased partner. They were a gloomy suite of rooms in a lowering pile of building up a yard, where they had so little distance to be. One could scarcely help fancying it must have run there when it was a young house, playing at hide and seek with other houses. Have forgotten the way out. It's old enough now, and dreary enough, where nobody lived in it but Scrooge. The other rooms being all let out as offices. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge knew its every stone. It was vain to grope with his hands. The fog and frost so hung about the old gateway house. I don't really know if it's your mic as it's doing it again. Really? Let me test again. Alright, it's good to let me know, Dave. Thank you very much. Alright. I just heading out some new settings from my mic. The fog and frost so hung about the black old gateway of the house. It seemed as if the genius of the weather sat in mournful meditation on the threshold. Now, it is a fact there is nothing at all particular about the knock at the door, except it was very large. It was also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his whole residence at that place. Also that had Scrooge as little of what is called fancy about him as any man in the city of London, even including, which is a bold word, the corporation, alderman, and livery. Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not once had... I know struggles, so I like to help homies. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. I always appreciate your help, as well as everyone here in chat. Right. Had not bestowed one thought on Marley since his last mention of his 7-year dead partner that afternoon. Then let any man explain to him, if he can, had happened meant that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw the knocker without its undergoing any intermediate change of process of change. Not a knocker, but Molly's face. Let me drink here. Molly's face was not in impenetrable shadow as the other objects in the yard were, but a dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in a dark cellar. He was not angry or ferocious, but looked as Scrooge as Molly used to look. Ghostly spectacles turned up on his ghostly forehead. The hair was curiously stirred, as if by breath or hot air, and though the eyes were wide open, they were perfectly motionless. That, in its livid color, is horrible. But its horror seemed to be in spite of the face and beyond its control, rather than a part of his own expression. Scrooge looked fixedly at this phenomenon. It was a knocker again. Those don't work, Dave. I don't. So you don't have to worry about that. Alright? Take it easy. Say he was not startled, or that his blood was not conscious of a terrible situation in which he had been stranger of infancy. It would be untrue, but he put his hand upon the key he had relinquished, turned it sturdily, walked in, and lighted his candle. Okay? Yeah, alright. He did pause with a moment's irresolution before he shut the door. He did look cautiously behind it first, as if he half expected to be terrified at the sight of Marley's pigtails sticking out into the hall. There was nothing on the back of the door except the screws and nuts that held the knocker on. So he said, "Pooh, pooh, pooh, pooh," and closed it with a bang. The sound resounded through the house like thunder. Every room above, every cask in the wine merchant cellars below, appeared to have a separate peal of echoes of its own. Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes. He fastened the door, walked across the hall, and up the stairs, slowly too, tripping his candle as he went. He may talk vaguely about driving a coach and six up a good old flight of stairs, or through a bad young at a parliament. But I mean to say, you might have got a hearsay up that staircase, and taken it broadwise, splint the bar towards the wall and the door towards the balustrades. I think that's how you say it. And done it easy. There was plenty of wit from it for that, and room to spare. Which is perhaps the reason why Scrooge thought he saw a locomotive hearsay going on before him in the gloom. Half a dozen gas lamps out of the street would have lit the entry too well, so you may suppose it was pretty dark for Scrooge's dip. Up Scrooge went, not caring about it for that, dark as a sheep, as Scrooge liked it. But before he shut his heavy door, he walked through his collection to rooms to see all was right. He had just enough recollection of the face to decide to do that. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa. A small fire in the grate, spoon and basin ready. Little saucepan of gruel. Scrooge had a cold in his head upon the hob. Nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet. Nobody in his dressing gown, which was hanging up in a vicious attitude against the wall. Lumber room as well. Old fireguard, old shoes, 2 fist baskets, watching stand on 3 legs, and a poker. Quite satisfied, he closed the door and locked himself, double-locked himself in, which was not his custom, thus secured against the price. He took off his cravat, put on his dressing gown and slippers, and his nightcap, sat down before the fire to take his brew. It was a very low fire indeed, nothing on such a bitter night. He was obligated to sit close to it and brood over it, or he could extract the least sensational warmth for some fuel. The fireplace was an old one, built by some Dutch merchant long ago, paved all round with quaint Dutch tiles, designed to illustrate the sculptures. There was Cain's and Abel's, Pharaoh's daughters, Queens of Sheba, jelly messengers descending through the air on clouds like feather beds, Abraham's, Belashars, apostles putting off to sea in butter boats, hundreds of figures to attract his thoughts, and yet that face of Marley, 7 years dead, came like the ancient prophet's rod, to swallow the whole. Yet each smooth child had been a blanket first, with power to shape some pictures on its surface from the disjointed fragments on its thoughts. It would have been a copy of old Molly's head on everyone. Humbug! Said Scrooge, and walked across the room. After several turns, he sat down again. He threw his head back in the chair. His glance happened to rest upon a bell, a disused bell that hung in the room, and communicated, for some purpose now forgotten, the chamber in the highest story in the building. It was with great astonishment and with a strange, inexplicable dread. He saw this bell he began to swing. It swung so softly in the outlet that it scarcely made a sound. But soon it rang out loudly, and so did every bell in the house. This might have lasted half an hour, or a minute, but it seemed an hour. Bells ceased as they had begun, together, succeeded by a clanking deep down below, as if someone were dragging a heavy chain over the casket that wine merchant cellar. Scrooge then remembered to have heard the ghost in haunted houses to describe dragging chains. Hi, Raphael! Hi, Raph! How you doing? Merry Christmas. I'm doing just great. Have you had a great Christmas, Raph? Just wanted to ask. Just here reading a mid-Christmas carol to everyone here. So, let's continue. Here's yet another illustration. The cellar door flew open with a booming sound, and then he heard a noise much louder, and on the floors below, then coming up the stairs, then coming straight towards his door. "It's humbug, Skill," said Scrooge. "I won't believe it." His color changed, though, when, without a pause, came on through the heavy door, passed into the room before his eyes. Its coming in the dying flame that leaped up, as though it cried, "I know him! Marley's ghost!" and fell again. The same face, very same. Marley in his pigtail, usual waistcoat, tights and boots, the tassel on the latter bristling, like his pigtail and coat skirts, and the hair upon his head. The chain he threw was clasped about his middle. It was long, and wound about him like a tail. It was made, for Scrooge observed closely, of cash box, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses as through wrought steel. His body was transparent, so that Scrooge, observing him and looking through the waistcoat, could see the 2 buttons on his coat behind. You're fine? Good to hear. You hearing some Christmas stories too? That's wonderful to hear, Raph. Alright. Continue on. Scrooge has often heard it said that Marley's had no bow. I had never believed it until now. No, nor did he believe it even now. To look at the fender through and through, and saw it standing before him, though he felt the chilling influence of its deaf cold eyes. marked the very texture of the folded kerchief bound about his head and shin, which wrapper he had not observed before. Still incredulous, and fought against his senses. "Oh no," said Scrooge, caustic cold as ever. "What do you want with me?" "Much!" Marley's voice. No doubt about it. "Who are you?" "Ask me who I was." Who are you then?" said Scrooge, raising his voice. "You're particular for a shade," I was going to say. "To a shade," but substitute this as more appropriate. "In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. Can you sit down?" asked Scrooge, looking doubtfully at him. "I can? Do it then." Scrooge asked the question because he didn't know how so transparent might find himself in a condition to take a chair, and felt that in the event of its being possible, it might involve the necessity of an embarrassing situation. But the ghost sat down on the opposite side of the fireplace, as if he were quite used to it. "You don't believe in me?" observed the ghost. "I don't," said Scrooge. "What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your senses?" "I don't know," said Scrooge. "Why do you doubt your senses?" "Because," said Scrooge, "a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them sheets. It may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an undone potato. There's more of gravy than of grey about you, whatever you are." Scrooge was not much in the habit of cracking jokes, nor did he feel, in his heart, by any means waggish then. The truth is that he tried to be smart as a means of distracting his own attention, and keeping down his terror for the spectre's voice to start the very marrow in his bones. To sit staring at those fixed glazed eyes in silence for a minute would play, Scrooge felt, the very due with it. It was something very awful too, in the spectre's being provided with an infernal atmosphere of its own. Scrooge could not feel himself, but that was clearly the case. For though the ghost sat perfectly motionless, its hairs and skirts and tassels were still agitated as by the very hot vapor from an oven. "You see this toothpick?" said Scrooge, returning quickly to the sarge. But the reason just aside, wishing, though, if it were only for a minute, to divert the vision's stony gaze from itself. "I do," said the ghost. "You're not looking at it," said Scrooge. "But I see it, notwithstanding." "Well," returned Scrooge, "I have but to swallow this, and be for the rest of my days persecuted by a legion of goblins, all of my own creations. Humbug, I tell you! Humbug!" At this, the spirit raised a frightful cry. Shook his chains with such a dismal and appalling noise that Scrooge held on to his chair to save himself from falling in a swoon. But how much greater was his terror, the fan taking off the bandages round his head, as it were chillborn to earth indoors. His lower jaw dropped down upon his breast. Scrooge fell upon his knees and clasped his hand before his face. "Mercy! He said. "A dreadful apparition! Why do you trouble me?" "Man of the worldly mind," replied the ghost. "Do you believe with me or not?" "I do." Scrooge. "I must. But why do spirits walk the earth? And why do they come to me?" "It is required of every man," the ghost returned. "The spirit within him should walk abroad to his fellow men, and travel far and wide, as if the spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe is me! And witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth, and turn to happiness. Again the spectre raised a cry, shook his chain, wrung his shattered hand. "You're feathered," said Scrooge, trembling. "Tell me why." "I wear the chain I forged in life," replied the ghost. "I made it link by link, and yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you?" Scrooge trembled more and more. "Or would you know," pursued the ghost, "the weight and length of the strong coil bear yourself? It was full of heavy as long as this 7 years ago. You labored on it since. It's a ponderous chain." Rachel glanced up at him on the floor, in the expectation of finding himself surrounded by some 50 or 60 fat iron cable. See nothing. "Jacob," he said imploringly. "Oh, Jacob Marley, tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob." "I have none to give," the ghost replied. "It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge. It is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor can I tell you what I would. A very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me. In life, my spirit never rode beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hole. And very journeys lie before me." It was a habit with Scrooge, whenever he became thoughtful, to put his hand in his breeches pockets, pondering on what the ghost had said. He did so now, without lifting his eyes or getting off his knees. "You must have been very slow about it, Jacob," Scrooge observed in a business-like manner, though a female didn't differ. "Slow!" the ghost repeated. 7 years dead, mused Scrooge, "and traveling all the time." "The whole time," said the ghost. "No rest, no peace, incessant torture of remorse." "You travel fast," said Scrooge. "On the wings of the wind," replied the ghost. "Might have gotten over a great quantity of ground in 7 years," said Scrooge. The ghost, on hearing this, set up another cry. "Roar!" Clanked its chain so hideously, dead silence of the night, that the word would have justified in dictating it for a nuisance. "Oh, captive, bold, and double-ironed," cried the man, "not to know that ages of incessant labor by immortal creatures for this earth must pass into eternity before the good of which it is susceptible is all developed. Not to know that any Christian spirit working kindly in its little sphere, whatever it may be, will find its mortal life too short for its vast means of usefulness. Not to know that no space of regret can make amends for one's life's opportunities misused. Yet such was I. Oh, such was I." "But you're a good man of business, Jacob," faltered Scrooge, who now began to apply to himself. "Business!" cried the ghost, wringing his hand again. "Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business." It held up its chains again at arm's length, as if it were the cause of all its unavailing grief, and flung it heavily upon the ground again. "At this time of the rolling year," the spectre said, "I suffer most. Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down? I never hastened to that blessed star which led the wise men to a poor abode. Were there no poor homes to which its light would have conducted me?" Scrooge was very dismayed to hear the spectre go on about this rate, began to quake exceedingly. "Hear me!" cried the ghost. "My time is nearly gone.
I will, said Scrooge. But don't be hard upon me. Don't be flowery, Jacob. Pray. How is it that I appear before you in a shape that you can see? I may not tell. I have sat invincible beside you many and many a day.
It was not an agreeable idea. Scrooge shivered, and wiped the perspiration from his brow.
That is no light part of my penance, pursued the Ghost. I am here tonight to warn you you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope of my procuring, Ebenezer. You were always a good friend to me, said Scrooge. Thank ye. You will be haunted, resumed the Ghost, by 3 spirits.
Scrooge's countenance fell almost as low as the Ghost's done.
Is that the chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob? He demanded in a faltering voice. It is. I think I'd rather not, said Scrooge. Without their visits, said the Ghost, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow, when the bell tolls 1. Couldn't I take them all at once and have it handed over, Jacob? Hinted Scrooge. Expect the second one on the next night at the same hour. The third upon the next night, when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more, and look that, for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us.
When it had said these words, the spectre took his wrapper from the floor and bound it round his head as before. Scrooge knew this, but more sounded his teeth made. Jaws were rubbed together by the bench. He ventured to raise his eyes again, found the supernatural visitor confronted him in an erect attitude. A chain that wound over and about him. So, I need to get in. The apparition walked backward from him. At every turn, every step it took, the window raised itself a little, so that when the spectre reached it, it was wide open. It beckoned Scrooge to approach, which he did. They were 2 paces of each other. Molly's Ghost held up its hand, warning him to come no near. Scrooge stopped. No so much more in obedience as in surprise and fear. On the raising of his hand, he became sensible of confused noises in the air. He could hear a noise of lamentation, regret, wailings inexpressibly sorrowful and self-accusatory. The spectre, after listening for a moment, joined in the mournful dirge and floated out upon the bleak, darkened night. Scrooge followed to the window, desperate in his curiosity. He looked down. The air was filled with phantoms, hither, and thither in listless haste, and moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains like Molly's Ghost. Some of them, like the guilty governments, were linked together, none of them were free. Many had been personally known to Scrooge in their lives. He had been quite familiar with one old ghost, in a white waistcoat, monstrous iron safe attached to his ankle, who cried piteously at being used unable to assist a wretched woman with an infant, whom it saw below, upon a doorstep. The mystery with them all was, clearly, that it sought to interfere for good in human matter, and had lost the power forever. Whether these creatures faded into mist, or mist enshrouded them, cannot tell. But they and their spirit voices faded together. The night became as it has been. Walked home. Scrooge closed his window, examined the door by which the ghost entered. It was double locked, as he had locked with his own hands, and the bolts were undisturbed. He tried to say humbug, but stopped at the first syllable. And being on the motion he had undergone,
or the fatigues of the day, or the glimpse of the invisible world, the dull conversation of the ghost, or the lateness of the owl. Much needed repose. Straight to bed, without undressing, and fell upon that. Alright. So, before we begin stage 2, I'm just gonna get the reef, right? So I'll be right back. Ah, damn it! Sorry. Alright. Is background? Sorry. Thanks for letting me know, Dave. Alright, I guess gonna repeat this again. Stave 2. The first of the three spirits. Scrooge awoke. It was so dark that looking out of the window, he could scarcely distinguish transparent windows from the opaque walls of the chamber. He was endeavoring to pierce the darkness with its ferret eyes. Shines of a neighboring church struck the 4 quarters. Listed for the hour. Astonishment. The heavy bell went on from 6 to 7, and from 7 to 8, regularly up to 12. Stopped. 12! It was past 2 when he went to bed. The clock was wrong. An icicle must have got in the works. 12! He touched the spring of his repeater to correct this most preposterous clock. Its rapid little pulse beat 12 and stopped. Why, this is impossible, said Scrooge. That can't have slept through a whole day at all into another night. It isn't possible that anything has happened to the sun, and it is 12 at noon. He didn't being alarmed, scrambled out of bed, groped his way to the window. He was obligated to rub the frost off with the sleeve of his dressing gown. Before he could see in, he could see very little then. All he could make out was that still very foggy, extremely cold. As there were no noise of people running to and fro from, and making a great stir, as they were unquestionably would have been, and if night had been of bright day, had taken possession of the night, the world. It was a great relief, because 3 days after the sight of the first exchange paid to Ebenezer Scrooge or his order, and so forth, would have become a mere United States security if there was no days to count. Scrooge went to bed again and thought and thought and thought it over and over and over. He could make nothing of it. The more he thought, the more perplexed he was, and the more he endeavored not to think of it, the more he thought. All these ghosts bothered him exceedingly. Every time he resolved them within himself, after maturing inquiry, it was all a dream. His mind flew back again, like a strong spring release, to its first position, and presented the same problem to be worked all through. Was it a dream or not? Scrooge lay in this state until shine gone 3/4 more, when he remembered on a sudden that the ghost had warned him of a visitation with the bell tolled 1. He resolved to lie awake until the hour was past, and... Huh? Oh, no, Mue! Welcome in! How you doing? I'm glad you followed. Well, I was reading the Christmas Carol here for everyone in chat. So, let's continue. Let's see. Oh. Resolved to lie awake until the hours passed, and considering he could no more go to sleep than go to heaven, this was perhaps a wiser resolution in his power. I know me, if I'm saying that correct. Sorry. Right. The quarter was so long that he was more than once convinced that he must have sunk to a dozen doze unconsciously and missed the clock. At length, it broke upon his listening ear. Good? I'm good. I'm very good. So, ding dong. 1/4 past, said Scrooge, counting. Ding dong. 1/2 past, said Scrooge. Ding dong. 1/4 to it, said Scrooge. Ding dong. The hour itself, said Scrooge triumphantly, and nothing else. He spoke before the hour bell sounded, which it now did with a deep, dull, melancholy 1. Light flashed up the room upon him, and the curtains of his bed were drawn. Curtains of his bed were drawn aside, I tell you, by a hand. Not the curtain at his feet, nor the curtain at his back, but those to which his face would rest. The curtains of his bed drawn aside. Scrooge, starting up to a half-recumbent attitude, found himself face to face, unearthly visitor who drew them, as close to it as I am now with, and I stand in spirit at your elbow. A strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man. You through some supernatural meat which gave him the bearers of him receded from the view, and being diminished to his child's proportion. His hair, which hung about his neck and down his back, was white as if with age, yet the face not a wrinkle with it. And the tenderest plume was on his skin. The arms were very long and muscular, the hands the same, as if its holds were of a common string. The legs and face, most delicate form, were like those upper members bare. It wore a tunic of the purest white. Round his waist was bound a lustrous belt, the sheen of which was beautiful. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, and, in singing a contradiction of the white emblem, had its dress trimmed with summer flower. The strangest thing about it is that from the crown on his head there bright jet of light, bright clear jet light, which all this was visible, and which was doubtless the occasion of his using in his duller moments. A great extinguisher for a cap, in which it now held under its arm. Even this, though, when Scrooge looked at it, its steadiness was not its just quality, for as its belt sparkling glittered now in one part, now in another, and what was light one instant and at another time was dark, so that the figure itself swayed in this being now a thing with one arm, now with one leg, now with 20 legs, now with a pair of legs without a head, now a head without a body, of which the solving parts, no outline, be visible. Instead, the dense gloom wherein they melted. And in the very innate wonder of this, it could be itself again, distinct and clear as ever. Are you the spirit, sir, of which coming was foretold to me? Asked Scrooge. I am. Voice was gentle and soft and gentle, signal low, as if instead of being so close behind it were at a distance. Ooh, and what are you? Scrooge demanded. I am the ghost of Christmas past. A long past? Inquired Scrooge, observant to his words. Catcher? No, your past. Perhaps Scrooge could have told anybody why, if anybody could have asked him. He had a special desire to see the spirit in his cap, and begged him to be covered. What? Exclaimed the ghost. Which you so soon put out with worldly hands to light again. Is it not that you are the one of those whose passion made this cap, and forced me through the whole trains of years to wear it low upon my brow? Truth reverently claimed all intent to be offended, or any knowledge of having willingly connected the spirit at any period of his life. Then made bold to inquire what business brought him there. Your welfare. Scrooge expressed himself much obligated, but could not help thinking that a night of unbroken rest would have been more than conducted. The spirit must have heard him thinking, for it said immediately, Your reclamation, then. Take heed. It put out its strong hand as it spoke, and clasped him gently by the arm. Rise, and walk with me. It would have been in vain for Scrooge to believe that the weather hour were not adapted to pedestrian purposes. That bed was warm and the thermometer a long way below freezing. That he was clad but lightly in slipper, dressing gown, and nightcap. And that he had a cold upon him at that time. Excuse me. The grasp, though gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. He rose, but finding that the spirit moved towards the window, clasping its in supplication. I am a mortal, Scrooge remonstrated, and liable to fall. Bear but a thought of my hand. And switch him over and get rid of bed. Alright, Dave. Good night. Sleep well. Right? And sleep well. Bear but a touch of my hand there, said the spirit. On his head, heart, and you shall be upheld in this. As the word was spoken, he passed through the wall, stood upon an open country road, heels on his hand. City, band, vicious was to be seen, darted and mist, and was clear day, no ground. Oh, good heavens, said Scrooge, clasping his hands together as them. I was bred in this place. I was a boy here. The spirit gazed upon him, smiling. Its gentle touch, though it had light genius, still present to that the old man he was conscious as of thousand odors floating there, each one connected with 1,000 thoughts, the hopes and joys and cares long, long forgotten. Her lips are trembling, said the ghost, and sat upon her cheek. Scrooge murmured, that usual catching in his voice, that it was a pimple, and begged the ghost to lead him where he would. You recollect the way? Remember, inquired the spirit. Remember it, cried Scrooge. However, I could walk blindfold. Strange to have forgotten for so many years, observed the ghost. Let us go on. Walked along the road. Scrooge recognized every gate and tree upon them until a little market town appeared in the distance. Bridge is church and a winding river. Some shaggy now were brought them boy back, who called to other boys who congregated cards earned by farmer. All these boys were great spirit and shouted until the broad fields were so full of merry music. Crisp air laughed to hear it. These are but shadows of the things that have been, said the ghost. They have no consciousness of us. The yoke-hound of travelers came home, and as they came, Scrooge knew and named them every one. Why was he rejoiced beyond all bounds to see them? What did his eye glisten and his heart leap as they went past? Why was he filled with gladness when he heard them give each other Merry Christmas? As they plodded across the road and by with their various homes. What was Merry Christmas, Scrooge? Out upon Merry Christmas, what good ever done to him? School was not quite deserted, said the ghost. A solitary child, like friends, and is left there still. Scrooge said he knew it. He saw. Left the highway, well-remembered lane, soon approached a mansion of dull brick. Little weathercock surmounted cupola on and a bell hanging in. It was a large house, with broken furniture, for spacious offices were little use. When walls were damp and mossy, windows broken, and gates decayed. Fowls clucked and stuttered in the stables, and the coach houses and sheds were overrun with rats. Nor was it more attentive of his aged state within, for entering the greater halls and glancing through the open doors of many rooms, they found them poorly furnished, cold, and vast. There was an earthy savor in the air, a hilly bareness in the place, which associated itself somehow with too much getting up by candlelight, and not too much to eat. It went the ghost and Scrooge across the hall to a door at the back of the house. It opened for them, disclosed a long, bare, melancholy room, made bare still by lines of plain deal forms and desks. At these a lonely boy would near a feeble fire. Scrooge sat down upon a form. I went to see his poor forgotten self as he had used to be. Not a laden echo in the house, not a squeak of scuttle from the mice behind the pan, not a drip from the half-false waterspout dull yard behind. Not a sigh among the leafless boughs of one despot poplar. Not the idle swinging of an empty storehouse door. No, not a clicking in the fire, but fell upon the heart of Scrooge with softening influence. It gave a freer passage to his tears. The spirit touched him on the arm and pointed to his younger self, intent on his reading. Suddenly, a man, in foreign garments, wonderfully real and distinct to look at, stood outside him, with an axe stuck in his belt. and leading by the bridle, an ass-ridden laden with wood. Why, it's Ali Baba! Scrooge exclaimed in ecstasy. It's dear old oldness Ali Baba. Yes, I know. One Christmas time, when you're the solitary child was left here all alone, he did come for the first time, just like that. Poor boy. And Valentine, said Scrooge, his white brother Orson. There they go. And what was his name? Was put down in his drawers asleep at the gate of Damascus. Don't you see him? At the Sultan's groom turned upside down by the genii. There he is upon his head. Serve him right. I'm glad of it. What business had he to be married to the princess? I hear Scrooge expending all the earnestness of his nature on such subjects. In a most extraordinary voice, between laughing and crying, to see his heightened and excited face would have been a surprise to his business partner in the town indeed. Here's a parrot, said Scrooge. Green body and yellow tail, with a thing like the letters growing out of the top of his head. There he is. Poor Robin Crusoe, he called him, when he came home again after sailing round the island. Poor Robin Crusoe. Where you been, Robin Crusoe? The man thought he was dreaming. What was it? It was a parrot, you know. There goes Friday, running for his life to the little creek. Hello, hop, hello. Then, rapidly after transition very foreign to his usual character, said, to his former self, a poor boy, and cried again. I wish, Scrooge muttered, putting his hand in his pockets, looking about him, drying his tear, his eyes pressed his cuff. But it's too late now.
Oh, going to bed, Dad? Going to bed, Dad? Belgian? Well, good night. Sleep well. Sleep tight. Right. Continuing on.
What is the matter? Asked the spirit. Nothing, said Scrooge. Nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should like to give him something, that's all. The ghost smiled thoughtfully and waved his hand, saying as it did so, let us see another Christmas. Scrooge's former self grew large at the word, and the room became a little darker and more dirty. The panels shrank, the windows creaked, fragments of plaster fell out of the ceiling, and the naked laughs were shown instead. But how all this was brought about, Scrooge knew no more than you do. He knew that it was quite correct, that everything had happened so, that there he was alone again when all the other boys had gone home for the jolly holidays. He was not reading now, but walking up and down despairingly. Scrooge looked at the ghost, with a mournful shaking of his head, glanced anxiously towards the door. It opened, and a little girl, much younger than the boy, came darting in, and putting her arm around his neck, and after kissing him, addressed him as her dear brother. I came to bring you home, dear brother, said the child, clasping her tiny hands and bending to laugh. To bring you home, home. Home, little fan, returned the boy. Yes, said the child, brimful of glee. Home, for good and all, forever and ever. God is so much kinder than he used to be. At home's like heaven. Sorry.
No.
He spoke so gently to me one dear night when I was going to bed that I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said yes, you should, and sent me in a coach to bring you, and you're to be a man, said the child, opening her eyes, and are never to come back here. But first, we're to be burnt together all the Christmas long, at the merriest time in all the world. You're quite a woman, little fan, exclaimed the boy. She clapped her hands and laughed.
I tried to touch his head, but being too little, laughed again. I stood on tiptoe to embrace him. Then she began to drag him in her childish eagerness towards the door. And he, nothing to love to go, accompanied her. A terrible voice in the hall cried,
Bring back Master Scrooge box there.
In the hall appeared the schoolmaster himself, glared on Master Scrooge with a ferocious condescension, and threw himself into a dreadful state of mind by shaking his hands with them. He then conveyed him and his sister to the various old well of a shivering best parlor yet ever was seen, where the maps upon the wall and the celestial and terrestrial globes in the window were waxy with cold. Sorry. Here he produced a decanter of curiously light wine and a block of curiously heavy cake, and administered installments of dainties to the young people, at the same time setting out a meager serve to offer a glass of something to the postboy, who answered that he thanked him. But if it was the same tap as he had tasted before, he had rather not. Master Scrooge's trunk being by the time tied on the top of the chain. The children bade the schoolmaster goodbye and ringingly, and getting to it, drove gaily down the garden sweep. The quick wheels dashing the hoarfrost and snow from off the dark leaves of the evergreens like spray. Always a delicate creature, whom a breath might have withered, said the ghost, but she had a large heart. It looks like the picture this one.
And so she had, said Scrooge. You're right. I will not gainly say it, Spirit. God forbid.
She died a woman, said the ghost, and had, as I think, children.
One child,
Scrooge returned. True, said the ghost. Your nephew. Scrooge seemed uneasy in his mind, and answered briefly. Yes. Although they had but in the moment left the school behind them, they were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city, where shadowy passengers passed and repassed. Shadowy cars and coaches battled for their way, and all the strife and tumult of a real city. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shop. Here too it was Christmas time again, but it was evening. The streets were lighting up. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it.
Know it, said Scrooge. Was I apprenticed here?
Went in, at sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig, sitting behind such a high desk that as if he had been 2 inches taller, he might knock his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried in great excitement,
Why, it's all Festive Week. This is hot. It's Festive Week alive again.
Old Fezziwig laid down his pen, looked up at the clock, which pointed to the hour of 7. He rubbed his hands, adjusted his capacious white waistcoat, laughed all over himself, from his shoes to his organ of benevolence, called out in a comfortable, oily, rich, fat, jovial voice,
You there, Ebenezer, Dick.
Scrooge for himself, now a young man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice.
Dick Wickens, to be sure,
said Scrooge to the ghost.
That's me, yes, there he is. He was very much attached to me, was Dick. Poor Dick, dear. Yoo-hoo, my boys,
said Fezziwig.
No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up. cried old Fezziwig. The sharp clap of his hand. Before a man can say Jack Robinson. You wouldn't believe how deep those two fellows went. Charged into the street with a shot. 1, 2, 3. Had them up in their places. 4, 5, 6. Bared them and pinned them. 7, 8, 9. It came back before you could have gotten to 11. Painting like racehorse. Panting like racehorse. Hilly-ho! Cried the old Fezziwig, skipping down from the hind desk with wonderful agility. Clear away, my lads. Let's have lots of room here. Hilly-ho, Dick. Cheer up, Ebenezer. Clear away. There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away, or couldn't have cleared away. Old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off, as it were dismissed from public forevermore. Sorry. The streets were swept and watered. The lamps were trimmed. Fuel was heaped upon the fire. The warehouse was as snug and warm, and dry and bright a ball as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. In came a fiddler with a music book, and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it, a tune like 50 stomach aches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile. In came the three Mrs. Fezziwig, beaming and lovable. In came the 6 young followers whose hearts they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in this. In came the I'm not so used to talking so much. In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. In came the boy from over the way, who was suspected of not having bored enough from his master. Trying to hide himself behind the girl from next door, but one was proved to have her ears pulled by her mistress. And they all came, one after another. Some shyly, some bubbly, some regretfully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling, in which they all came. Anyhow and everyhow, away they went. They all went. 20 couple at once. Hands half round and back again the other way. Down the middle and up again, round and round in various stages of affectionate groping. New top couples starting off. As soon as they got there, all top couples at last, not a bottom one to help them. This result was brought about. Old Fezziwig, clapping his hands to stop his dance, cried out, "Well done!" The fiddler plunged his hot face to a pot of porter, especially provided for that purpose. But scorning rest upon his reappearance, he instantly began again, though there was no tense yet, as the old other fiddler had been carried home, exhausted, on a shutter. And he were a brand new man resolved to beat him out of sight, or perish. There were more dances, and there were forfeits, and more dances, and there was cake, and there was not sure I'm allowed to say that. And there was a great piece of cold roast, and there was a great piece of cold boil, and there were mince pies, and plenty of beer. But the great effect of the evening came after the roast and boiled, when the fiddler, an awful top mind, the sort of man who knew his business better. I could have told him. Struck up. Sir Roger de Coverley. Then old Fezziwig stood out, danced with Mrs. Fezziwig, top couple too, with a good stiff piece of work cut out. 3 or 4 or 20 pairs of partners. 3 or 4 and 20 pair of partners. People who were not to be trifled with. People who would dance and had no motion of walking. There had been twice as many, 4 times. Old Fezziwig would have been a match for them. So would Mrs. Fezziwig. As to her, she was worth it. Every sense of the term. If that's not high praise, tell me high, and I'll use it. A positive light appeared to issue from Miss Fezziwig's cows. They shone every part of the dance like moon. You couldn't have predicted, any given time, what would have become of them next. And when old Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig had gone through all the dances, advance and retire, both hands to your partner, bow and curtsy, corkscrew and thread the needle, and back again to your place. Fezziwig cut so deftly. He appeared to wink with his leg. He came upon his feet again with a stagger. The clock struck 12. The mess hall broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took up their stations, one on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person.
Sorry. It came out of nowhere.
And shaking hands with every person individually, as he or she went out, wished him or her, a Merry Christmas. When everyone had retired but the true princesses, they did the same to them. Thus cheerful voices died out. Last left to their beds, which were under a counter in the back shop. During the whole of this event, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul weren't seen. His former self corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything. Met with agitation. It was not until now, right face of himself and Dick turned from them. Remembered the goat. I became conscious it was looking full of me, but the light on its head burned very. A small matter to make these silly folk so full of gratitude. Small? Echoed Scrooge. Spirits I signed to him to listen to apprentices were pouring out their hearts of praise, and when he had done so, said, "Why, it's not. He had spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. No," he said. "Why, it's not. He had spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much deserves a praise? It isn't that." Heated by the remark, and speaking unconsciously of like his former, not his latter self, "It isn't that, spirit. He had the power to render us happy, and or unhappy, can make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in words and look, in things so slight and insignificant, it's impossible to add and count. But then, the happiness he gives is as great as if it cost a lifetime." Felt the spirit's gaze, stopped. "What is the matter?" "Nothing particular," said Scrooge. "Something, I think," the ghost insisted. "No, Scrooge, no. I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now, that's all." His former self turned down as he gave utterance to the wish, and Scrooge and the ghost again stood side by side in the opening. "My time grows short," observed the ghost. "Quick!" This was not addressed to Scrooge, to anyone whom he could see. It was an immediate effect. Again he saw Scrooge himself. He was old now, a man in the prime of life. His face had not the hard and ragged lines of later years, had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. There was an eager, greedy, reckless motion in the eye. It showed the passion that had taken root, and where the shadow of the growing tree would fall. It was not alone. It was set by the side of a fair young girl in a mourning, in whose eyes there were tears. which sparkled in light that shone out of the crystals. The ghost of Christmas past. I'm very little, she said softly. You're very little. Another idol has displaced me. If that can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I would not trust. I have no just cause to grieve. What idol had displaced you? A golden one. This is evenly had the dealing of the world, he said. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth. You fear the world too much, said Jim. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of historic approach. I've seen your noble aspirations fall off one by one until the master passion gain roses you. Have I not? What then? He retorted. Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I have not changed to watch you. She shook her head. Am I? Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until, in good season, we could improve our worldly fortune by our patient industry. Wait, our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until, in good season, we could improve our worldly fortune by our patient industry. You are changed. It was made. You were another man. I was a boy! Your own feeling tells you you're not what you are, she returned. I am. That which promised happiness. We were one heart. Is fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and keenly I have thought of this, I will not say. It is enough that I have thought. I can release you. Have I ever sought release? In words, no, never. In what then? Changed nature. In an altered spirit. Another atmosphere of life. Another hope at its great end. Everything that made my life any value, worth of value, in that time. If this had never been between us, said the girl, looking mildly, steadiness upon it. Tell me, you'd seek me out and try to win me now? Ah, no. He seemed to yield to the justice of the position in spite of himself. I said with strut. You think not? I would gladly think otherwise if I could, she answered. Heaven knows, when I have learned the truth like this, I know how strong and irresistible it must be. But if you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can even I believe that you would choose a doubtless girl? You, who in your own confidence with her, weigh everything by gain, or choosing her, if for a moment you were false not to your one guiding principle to do so. Do I not to that your repentance and regret would surely follow? I do, and I release you with a full heart for the love of him once were. He was about to speak, but her head turned to him to pursue. You may not. You may. The memory of what is past makes me have been a very, very time. I will dismiss the recollection gladly as an unprofitable dream, from which it had happened well that you woke. May you be happy time shows it. She left and departed. Spirit, said Scrooge, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me? One shadow more, exclaimed the ghost. No more, said Scrooge. No more. I don't wish to see it. Show me no more. But the relentless ghost pinioned him in both his arms and forced him to observe what happened. They were in another scene play.
a room, not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. Near to the winter fire sat a beautiful young girl, so like that last that Scrooge believed it was the same, till he saw her, now a comely matron, sitting opposite her daughter. The noise of this room was perfectly tumultuous. There was more children there than Scrooge in his agitated state of count. And unlike his celebrated herd in the poem, there were not 40 children to one, but every child was conducting itself like 40. The consequences were uproarious beyond belief, but no one seemed to care. On the contrary, the mother and daughter laughed heartily, enjoyed it very much, and the latter soon began to mingle in sport, got pillaged by the young drinkers most. What would I have not given to be one of them? Though I would never could have been so rude. No, no. I would have for the wealth of all the world have crushed that braided hair and torn it down. And for the precious little shoe, I would have plucked it off, God bless my soul, to save my life. As to measuring her waist in sport, as did bold young Rod, I could not have done it. I couldn't have done it. I should have expected my arm to have grown around it for a punishment, and never come straight again. And yet... Wait, where am I? And yet I should have dearly liked, I own, to have touched her lips, to have questioned her. She might have opened them, to have looked up the flashes of her downcast eyes, and never raised a blush, to have let loose waves of hair, an inch of which would have been sake beyond price. In short, I should have liked, I do confess, to have the license of a child, yet to have been man enough to know its value. But now a knocking at the door was heard, and such rush immediately ensued that she, with laughing face, and plundered dress, was borne towards it at the center of a flushed and boisterous was a tiny father. Came home attended by a man laden with Christmas toys and presents, shouting and struggling at the onslaught that was made on the defenseless porter, scaling him with shares for ladder to dive into his pockets, to spoil him of brown paper parcel, hold him tight by his cravat, hug him round his neck, pummel by back, and kick his legs in irresponsible affection. The shouts of wonder and delight with which the development of every package was received. Terrible announcement that the baby had taken in the act of putting a doll's frying pan into his mouth. More than suspected of having swallowed a fictitious turkey, glued up on a wooden platter. The immense relief of finding this a false alarm, the joy and the gratitude and ecstasy, they were all describable alike. It's enough to bite the children and their emotions got out of the parlor, and by one stair at a time, up to the top of the house, they went to bed and subsided. And now, Scrooge looked more intently than ever, when the master of the house, having his daughter fond, sat down with her and smudged by his own fireside. And when he thought that such an and as full of promise might have thought and been a springtime in the haggard winter of his life, sighed very thin. Well, said the husband, turning to his wife, smiled. I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon. What was it? Yes. How can I? But don't I know? He added in the same breath, laughing as he laughed. Mr. Scrooge! Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window.
and as it was not shut up, and he had a candle inside, I could scarcely help seeing him. His partner lies on the point of death, I hear, and there he is all alone, quite broken in the world, I do believe. Spirit, said Scrooge in a broken voice, remove me from this place. I told you they were shadows of the thing then, said the ghost. That they are what they are. Do not blame me. Remove me, Scrooge exclaimed. I cannot bear it. Turn upon the ghost and see a face in which some strange threats of all faith it had shown them wrestle. Leave me! Take me back! Hold me no longer! Struggle, if that can be called with no visible resistance. His own heart was unstirred by any effort of his adversary. Scrooge asserted its light was burning high and bright, and dimly connecting that with its influence over him, he seized it, extinguished the cap, and by sudden action pressed down his head, down upon his head. The spirit dropping so that the extinguisher recovered its whole form. But though Scrooge pressed down with all his force, he could not hide the light streamed from under it on unbroken blood ground. He was conscious of it being exhausted and overcame by irresistible drowsiness, and by and further of his own bedroom, he gave the cap a parting squeeze, in which his hand relaxed, and had barely time to feel the bed before he sat up a heavy sleep. Oh, so that must be Mr. Cratchit. Oh boy. Oh, now everything seems to begin to hurt. The throat, the mouth, everything. I'm so sorry about that. So, I'm thinking, well, let me think. This might be a good time to leave off for now. So, I just need to now find someone we can raid. And that's alright for you all. Let me see. Oh. Someone else that's very comforting. Oh. Some time, sorry. Unless you guys have anyone you can recommend to me. Yes. Don't forget to hydrate? I will. Alright, right now. If you guys have anyone you would recommend me to rate, leave it in the chat. Right? Captain Eno? Oh, right. Look. Right.
Snufkin May? Okay. Up. Right, looks like Inu is streaming. And Snufkin May is also streaming. Which one should I do? A very nice lady. Just don't use mommy. Okay. So, let's raid to Snufkin May. Right? Like this. Alright. Now. There we go. So, I want to thank everyone who has who has been here. Sorry, still not used to. So, I want to thank everyone who came here to enjoy a Christmas Carol with me. So, we're gonna raid over to Snufkin May. So, I hope you all had a great Christmas and you had a great time here. Right? Bye, everyone. See you next time. Oh, if you like the stream, you leave a follow. It helps a lot, honestly.